What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Wrestling Junkies podcast. I'm Eric, Mr. Cincinnati Robinson. And as always, I am joined by the podcast dad himself, Chris Hoops. Hoops, how you doing, man?
I'm doing fantastic, although the allergies are really beating me up today, but I'm doing well. We get to do something we love to do. We're going to talk to a ring announcer today from, not gonna lie, probably one of my favorite states in the country, so don't let me talk too much. Let's get into it.
Wow.
Yes. Our next guest is a ring announcer, commentator, Twitch streamer, jack of all trades. He is heavily involved in the Colorado independent wrestling scene. Everybody, please welcome Schylar Ashwood. Schylar, how are you?
Great. Thank you guys for having me. Appreciate you.
Yeah, no, of course. If there's one thing we've come to love to do on this podcast is talking to people in the world of wrestling. So, without further ado, let's get right on into it. So here, Wrestling Junkies podcast, we look at wrestlers as superheroes, as supervillains. They all have origin stories. You may not be in the ring as a wrestler, but you are heavily involved in the wrestling industry. So, I'm sorry about that. Go ahead.
You say that, but I've actually been in a few matches. It has happened.
Okay.
It's not a full-time thing.
Okay.
Okay. Well, we're gonna get into that. But first, tell us some of your earliest memories of professional wrestling.
Earliest memories of professional wrestling. So I grew up down south in Louisiana. And when you're from down south, you usually have somebody in the family that is into pro wrestling. For me, that was my grandpa on my mom's side. Probably the earliest memory I have of pro wrestling is Jake the Snake Roberts, because being down south, snakes are very prevalent. Very dangerous. So imagine little 3-4-year-old me seeing a guy beat up a dude and then put a snake on him. So that's like forever burned into my memory. And he was feuding, I think, with Randy Savage at the time. And I see Randy Savage, cool outfit, pretty girl, big, deep, husky voice. This guy was just the epitome of cool in my book. So watched for a while as a kid, and then kind of fell off for me whenever I got in school. Then came like 97, 98, when it became cool to like wrestling, the Steve Austin New World Order era. And once it stopped being cool to watch wrestling, it never really left me. Like, wrestling's always been in my life ever since. Never in the world thought that I could actually do anything in the wrestling business. But I was in the military, met a guy named J.V. Vernola. Very good friend of mine to this day. He's done it all: manage, commentate, announce. He's actually the booker at Primo's right now. Out of the blue in 2021, I hit him up and I was like, you know what? If I could get out to Colorado where you're at, do you think that I could give the ring announcing thing a shot? That's like the one thing I thought I might be able to do. He's like, yeah, come on out. He brought me out. I announced a show for Jake Shannon's Shoot Pro Wrestling, and that night, the promoter for Colorado Springs Wrestling, Randy Rude, another friend of mine, had his ring announcer back out on him, and I'm there. And so he picked me up. I announced that show, had a ball, flew back to New Jersey where I was living at the time. I was a fan at the Monster Factory for 4 years, front row, never missed a show. And just sitting back down in the front row, I'm like, I'm on the wrong damn side of the barricade. I can't do this anymore. So a job opportunity came up out here in Colorado. I applied. I got it. First weekend I was out here, CSW picked me up, and the rest is history.
You certainly have the voice. I will say that. You certainly have the ring announcer, commentator voice. How did you end up meeting Seeing Nick?
So Seeing Nick is my commentary partner at Battleground Pro Wrestling. We run out of Greeley, Colorado. I am very grateful to BPW for introducing me to Nick, because he's helped me expand my skill set, which is really what I spent a lot of 2022 doing. Everybody out here knows me as an announcer, and for the longest, I was one of the only people who wanted to announce. So I had at one point 6 or 7 active promotions that I was working for as the ring announcer, and that became very challenging. So it was kind of partially a mission of like, okay, we need to get more announcers in the circuit out here, and I want to do something else. And BPW is one of the first places to kind of give me that chance. Pulled me off of announcing and said, hey, we're going to put you on commentary. And that's where I met Nick. I'm like, who is this guy? It's like, somebody sharper dressed than me. I'm kind of jealous here, but Nick has been tremendous. And it's funny. We were talking and I found out that I actually knew him from the Monster Factory. He did like a short stint there as a manager. And while I was sitting there in the front row, I saw him working as a manager. And then lo and behold, go pick him up from the airport. We're talking on the way there. I was like, I knew you before I met you out here. So wrestling is a small world. But yeah, that's how I met Nick. And I thank him for the kind words he had said to me or said of me when he was on your podcast. And I would definitely say the same in kind of him. He's helped me so much.
Wonderful, wonderful. Yeah, he's absolutely a great guy, and that was a wonderful conversation as well. And I came across this on your X page as far as a few fun facts about you. You once sang the national anthem at an NHL game. How did that come about?
So my day job, I worked for the Department of Defense. When I got out of the military, I just went back to the Air Force and started doing the same thing I did whenever I was enlisted. I was running the community outreach program at McGuire Air Force Base, Joint Base McGuire-Dix Lakehurst. So this is the fun part of this story is we had the off-base people would always come to me to look for national anthem singers. We had a girl on base in the Air Force. I kid you not, her name was Jennifer Lopez, and she sang the national anthem. She wasn't the J-Lo, but like she could sing just as good, if not better than her. Yeah. We all got really mad at her whenever she got married and ditched the name, but we were going to send her to go do an NHL game. It was the Jersey Devils versus the Detroit Red Wings at Prudential Center. And she backed out last minute, and it was a Veterans Day game. So my boss is like, "Oh, I've heard you do the anthem before. You can run from the whole veteran angle thing. Why don't you tell them you'll do it?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure, whatever. I've done it so many times it doesn't faze me." Well, I didn't realize that it was like a NHL game, like no joke. And by the by, said boss, I'm not going to name drop him here. Thank you for getting me like sick in the initial stages before I had to do that, which made it even more challenging. And then I find out that I'm stepping out in front of 15,000 people at packed Prudential Center for an NHL game to do the anthem. So
no pressure, none at all.
Yeah. But I didn't die.
Hey, you made it.
Good.
You made it.
It's a new experience.
Indeed. So this question changes a little bit for us now.
Sure.
Take me to, or if you have any pre-show rituals or routines as a commentator, and did you have any when you wrestled the couple times you did?
As a commentator or an announcer, I'd like to think I've gotten pretty good at just getting my stuff together, make sure everything's where I need it to be. Ritual, like spiritualistic, not really. I am a little on the spiritual side, and you always pray everything goes well beforehand. But everything else is just making sure I'm talking to everybody, catching up with my friends, vibing with them, just getting in show mode, getting ready to go. And as far as wrestling, one of my good friends, Damian Malice, said something to me that kind of shook me at the last time that I was in a Rumble. He saw me walking around backstage, and he said, I can always tell when Schylar's doing something because it's the only time I ever see him look nervous. So, before I get in the ring, I turned 37 yesterday, so I'm stretching, trying to get loose, make sure I'm not going to tear anything. It's probably nothing exciting anybody else does.
Yeah, it's all right. I stretch every day when I get out of bed just to go, to work. So I get it. I
don't know about you, but like when I turn 30, it's like you have to do that. It's not optional anymore.
I'm not there yet.
30 yet.
I'm not there yet.
Oh man,
this year, but I'm already starting to feel it, and I'm not gonna lie.
Get used to it. Get into some yoga classes. You will thank yourself later.
I'm gonna have to. My wife keeps telling me to do it, but we'll see.
You got this.
So, how would you say that you balance the professional demeanor that comes with being a ring announcer or a commentator with getting caught up in the action and the excitement of a live show?
So this kind of ties back to the national anthem at the Prudential Center. I hate my boss for doing that to me. However, that's like my fallback experience now, that anytime I start to get nervous or I start to question myself and my ability to do anything in front of anybody, I think back, I sang the national anthem, one of the most intimidating songs to sing in front of 15,000 people, and lived through that. And if I can make it through that, I can make it through anything. It really is hard for me to, I guess, kind of lose that balance, so to say. I I want to say, I don't want to sound arrogant, but I want to say it's like second nature at this point.
Sure.
I've only been in the business for about 3 years, but I've been on stage with a mic in my hand since I was 16 years old. So,
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. So, as a commentator, you have to make sure you have all the information down. You're informing the audience about everything going on, but on the other hand, you have to be entertaining as well. How do you
Yes.
balance those two?
So it's really about knowing the characters, knowing kind of the canon, the universe there that you're working with in that promotion. A lot of the fans are going to know that coming back week to week. As far as keeping it exciting, I can't remember who told me this, and when they see this and they're like, that was me, you dimwit. Someone had once told me that to call, and when you're on commentary, call it like you're like an old radio broadcaster. Like your audience cannot see what's going on, so you have to illustrate that in their heads. Because once upon a time, that actually was a thing where people would listen to sports over the radio. Heck, they still might. But that to me is super important in keeping it engaging and keeping it exciting and making sure balancing that probably is one of the more difficult things I've come across. Resisting that urge to put in too much I or me. It's not about you as a commentator. It's about what's going on in the ring, whether you are doing play-by-play or color. You got to keep the conversation as to what's going on in the ring and not fill it with references to yourself or references to side jokes that nobody is going to get except the boys.
Sure.
So it's, again, really ties back to it's not about you. If you want it to be about you, get your butt to training and get in the ring.
Yeah. And so you've done both color and play-by-play?
I have. And that's been one of the fun things about working with Nick is Nick and I kind of, I don't want to say hot potato that, but we kind of pass it back and forth and we find a nice little blend. Mm-hmm. We're calling what's going on in the ring. And then because I'm local here, I know some things about these guys and their history. For instance, Type 1 got the scarf on his collarbone because Hunter Gray, who he's feuding with in BPW right now, actually broke his clavicle off of a move early on in his career. Nick wouldn't know that, but Nick knows stuff about the people that they bring in from California, Texas, Georgia that I don't. So it's been like a nice little back and forth.
Which one do you prefer?
I really like play-by-play, but if I'm honest with you, Nick is way better at it than me.
It's okay. It's all right. Yeah. I like to say I like to host, but Eric is a lot better at it than me. So,
no, it's just making me blush. So you have, and you've already kind of said this as you were getting into your origins of wrestling and the promotions that you've attended. You're a fervent supporter of Monster Factory. They have a show on Apple TV. For those that may not have that may not have experienced this promotion before or haven't gotten a chance to tune into this show yet, what makes this promotion so special?
So one thing that Danny Cage is doing right now as the owner of the Monster Factory that I really appreciate and that he really expounded upon with the documentary is he's kind of, I don't want to say tearing down the walls, but pulling back the curtain more than has been done in the past with wrestling. There's been kind of a shift in the mentality that I've noticed about pro wrestling as of late with the whole pro wrestling is for everyone movement. And yes, maybe not everybody is going to be in the ring being a wrestler, but if you are really passionate about this, you can find something about wrestling, to find a role in it, whether it's backstage or whether it's like hosting a podcast like this. Mm-hmm. But I want to say what's really sets Monster Factory apart is that ability to let you get to know those wrestlers beyond the character that they're putting up. They've really always been like that as far as accessibility. And granted, whenever that documentary came out, I had known most of the people at the factory for about 4 or 5 years. I was learning things about them and their life that I had no idea about. I didn't know what Bobby Buffet did for a day job. It was really interesting to get into the Notorious Mimi's head, and who's eventually went on to become Sloane Jacobs in NXT as she was going through the process of getting signed to WWE at the age of 18, or all the stuff that Lucas Twitch DeSangro had gone through with mental health, which affects so many people in wrestling, far more than you realize, far more than a lot of us want to admit. But I think that personability and is really what sets the factory apart. And if you've never been to a factory show before, I highly encourage you to. Just the energy in that building is different. But there's so many promotions out there that I have been to or worked with that genuinely care about their fans. Monster Factory just seems like they take that to the next level, and they're real with you all the time.
Okay.
Well said. Well said.
I saw this question on the docket and I got real excited. So, can you tell us about the time you met Minoru Suzuki?
Yes. So that was a by chance thing. There is a promotion here in Denver, Colorado called Lucha Libre and Laughs, and they are they don't run every month, but they kind of like charge up. And when they run, they really bring in the big names. And I've never worked for them on screen or anything. I've done the ring crew work for them because they rent a ring from us. And that was kind of one of the added bonuses is that night. I almost urinated myself. I'm trying to keep my language here PG, but whenever I saw that he was on the card, but he is, I had the experience of whenever I was in the military, I lived in Japan for 2.5 years, and he is every bit like a humble Japanese old man. Very, very down to earth, just for like the supernova of a personality that he is out there and the legend that he is in the business. We were all like starstruck. Whenever you have like a name backstage, you always try to, keep it reeled in, keep it professional. Don't fangirl, be like, oh my God, we were all struggling there because like it's Minoru freaking Suzuki there.
Yeah.
He came out and like, he like was peeking around the corner, like watching almost everybody's matches. He very, very nice, down to earth guy. And then it was the most surreal thing to see him come out on stage and to see that switch flip. And I know so many people that do that, and that myself included, that you're just somebody else whenever you're out there. And just the energy, like how he lit up the room and how everybody was singing Kaze Ninare at the top of their lungs. It was unreal, man. And
Nice.
Even if it was like just being backstage working your ring crew for you, I thank Triple L so much for that.
Yeah, that's
Awesome.
I mean, that's certainly encouraging to hear that, what we see in the ring, there's a different personality behind that, because I'd probably be pissing my pants if I actually was
Terrified.
anywhere within. Right. That's I mean, that's a scary man that he presents as, so it's good that there's another side to him for sure.
It's been I've had that experience with a few people that it was just for instance, I kind of have a little story about Brian Kendrick. I met him in 2012 at a show whenever I was working at Fort Polk in Louisiana, that I got assigned to just do photos of that by my day job. And I had met him then, and I loosely asked him, I was like, hey, if I ever thought about getting into this, you have any advice for me? And he gave me some, told me, you find somewhere you train under somebody whose work you admire, work hard, don't make excuses. Well, it was a couple of years ago, he actually comes out to BPW every now and then, and I got to tell him back that story, and that was really cool. It was like, hey man, you gave me this advice all that years ago, and here I am. I'm your announcer, I'm your commentator. And to get to work with him and like people like him or PJ Black, just to name a couple, that will like recognize. Matt Cross is another one that will like recognize me because I've worked with him a few times. It's surreal to me. It was like I grew up watching these people on TV, but behind all that, there's a person there.
Yeah, absolutely. And you referenced this when we were discussing Monster Factory, as far as the presentation of wrestling and pulling back that curtain. How do you keep up with the constantly changing landscape of pro wrestling and adapt your commentary or your announcing style to change with the times?
So as far as commentary and announcing, I'm out there. I'm a character on stage. I'm not gonna break down that wall while I'm in the role, if that makes sense.
Sure.
But as far as social media goes, or you see me out in town or something, I'm not going to insult your intelligence. I think that's kind of the biggest reason that I've been kind of pro the peeling back the curtain thing is it's not the 1930s. We don't have the whole world snowed into thinking that everything is what it seems. We're here to put on a show. We're here to entertain people. And yes, you want to keep that. It is a very delicate balance that you want to keep that mystique about you, especially if you're a wrestler, because you want to be that larger than life thing. You want to be what the kids are looking up to. Yeah. And to me, more than anything, you want some kind of air about you that says that you're doing something that the person out in the audience can't, if that makes sense. But no, whenever I'm out there as an announcer or a commentator or wrestling, I'm on stage. I'm not going to break that character there.
Sure.
Okay. Awesome. Let's talk about a different stage. What influenced you and inspired you to become a Twitch streamer?
So I had a friend, his name's Keegan. He actually, I don't think he streams anymore. He's MasterGo89 on Twitch. He was the first person that I saw doing it. And I had just graduated college not that long ago. I was a radio host in college. I really, really missed my show. And I was like, dude, you look like you're doing a radio show. Oh, this is fun. Anybody can do it. Yeah, let me give this a shot. So yeah, there from about 2019 to 2021, I was a fairly steady Twitch streamer at Schylar the Dragon on Twitch. I don't really stream much anymore because especially since I got into wrestling, there are weekends where I don't have time to breathe. So, but yeah, that's what got me into that. And I've met so many awesome people, including wrestlers over Twitch. Shout out to Chandler Hopkins. Down in Texas. I am a regular in his stream chat, but yeah, he's a Twitch streamer. I found Akira's a Twitch streamer. Lilith Grimm's a Twitch streamer. She's a wrestler out here. There's a lot of wrestlers that get on there, and it's fun to, hang out with them away from the ring. Yeah. Because again, we're all somebody underneath the character we are out there.
Sure. So tell us about the Intercontinental Championship.
You want me to go get it?
Yes.
Yeah, if you've got it, yes.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. That is a must for any guest that comes on. Yes. If you have a championship, you have to bring it on. You have to. That's
yes, 100%. I still have it.
Look at that.
Check that out.
That's a good looking belt.
That's a damn good looking belt. That's a professional wrestling belt here. It's actually retired. I don't know why I'm slinging it over my shoulder. But so this thing came to be because of we affectionately call them the Empower Kids. They were CSW wrestlers who were students at CSW school Empower. I think the architect behind the TikTok world title was a combination of Jalen Lee, who wrestled as Vito Volino, and my good friend and little brother, Type 1 Warrior, who freaking amazing. Follow him, check him out. They made up the TikTok title, and it was supposed to be, as I understood it, kind of like an Iron Man heavy metalweight or 24/7 kind of title. Okay. This was before I ever started training to wrestle, or before I ever thought that I would. And I was just stuck in the announcer thing, and I was in that phase of, I want to expand beyond that, and I want to put up like a wall between who the Schylar you're talking to right now is and who Schylar Ashwood is. And so I kind of made up this thing. Originally it was my Intercontinental Championship replica that I just stuck some stickers on. And then I found out where they made the TikTok title at, and it was only like $100. I'm like, okay, I can do that. Got this made, and just used it to kind of shoehorn my way into their universe there. Had a contactless rivalry with Jalen Lee there, and this actually is also kind of what led to the whole Niles Blood, Niles 358 thing that I just had this random. I was like, I'm going to pick one of these guys, and I'm going to have some reason to have a beef with him. And I was like, you know what? Niles Blood, he owes me $3.58 from 5 years ago from a Starbucks run. And lo and behold, the guy took it and he ran with it too. And become one of the best friends I've made in wrestling. But yeah, this was kind of my way to kind of shoehorn my way into their universe. And when it got a little crazy, I was like, okay, I'm gonna get rid of this. And then they brought the TikTok title back. So is this on the shelf forever? I don't know.
Never say never.
You have it
Never
on your
say
shoulder
never.
now. So
I will say, though, thank you to Type 1 Warrior, because I got to live out my dream of pulling the Medusa stunt with the TikTok title. That was on my social media for a while. I swore the whole reason I ever wanted to win the TikTok title was to cut the Nitro promo and throw the belt in the trash with the TikTok title and say mine's better. And I finally got to do that. But I got to do it because he got a new belt, and I threw the old one in the trash.
it's okay. And it was different than Medusa because at least you had another, title to, say mine is better. She never really got that title. So.
Yeah.
We have spent, 26 minutes here talking about everything Schylar Ashwood. For us wrestling fans, who are some names that we need to keep an eye out for over the next year, and kind of who do we need to tune into?
So I'm going to throw this one right out there because I saw that you guys have interviewed him before. There's a guy up northeast. His name's Landon Hale. He's actually out in Thailand right now wrestling. We found each other through Twitter. He's another one that I've never met in person, but he's like one of the most kind and like supportive human beings that I've ever interacted with on the internet. And that's saying a lot because there's some people out there on the internet, but I'm really proud of Landon. I know he had the goal of wrestling internationally for the longest.
Yep.
And he finally achieved that dream, and I know he's not done, but I absolutely love watching him soar and do everything that he's doing. Niles Blood, I already gave a shout out to, the first guy that feuded with me in wrestling. He's absolutely love that guy. Keep an eye on him. It's because it's me, I can't not mention anybody at the factory. Goldie, David Goldie. He is, I think he's done work with New Japan. That guy, that's the man with the hot hand. That's the man that I've got my money on to be the next guy that's signed out of the Monster Factory. So keep an eye on him. Keep an eye on Lucas Twitch DeSangro. I haven't done any of the girls. Lilith Grimm, she's been on AEW a few times. She's a staple of the Colorado scene out here. Tyra Rusami, one of my trainers, great friend of mine and absolutely underappreciated in that ring. That girl does not get her flowers. Give her a follow. I don't want to be here all day, so I'll cap it at that. Sorry for anybody I forgot.
No, that's okay. That's okay. And Landon, we'll see you here in the next couple of weeks.
About a month, yeah.
We take our trip down to Georgia to see you wrestle Ali, so we're excited for that for sure.
Oh, that's going to be a sick match, man.
Yeah, absolutely. We are very proud sponsors of that match, and it's gonna be a hell of a spring. So definitely looking forward.
I want to give one more little shout out here, and that's to the podcast dad over here. Thank you for adding to the population for those of us that don't want to have kids. Much appreciated.
So, hey, and that's for the both of you because I added 2 of them. So
hey, they say pimping ain't easy, being a dad ain't easy either. So,
not as hard as dealing with Eric, so it's fine.
Okay. Well,
shots fired. Damn.
Well, we're getting ready to ask the toughest question you've had on the show, so get ready.
Yeah, boy. This is there's no right answer or wrong answer here. It's just no. Okay, ignore him. But it's very important. Mr. WrestleMania. Is that Shawn Michaels, or is that The Undertaker?
I've seen you ask this to everybody, and there really is no right answer to this.
There definitely is.
But I'm not going to politic you here. I mean, the way I look at it, no disrespect to either party, I could call myself the WWE champion. Does that make me the WWE champion? No, not really. So I'm looking at this from what they've actually done. From a consistency standpoint, and you cannot touch, I don't think anything in wrestling history ever will again touch that streak that The Undertaker had. So I've got to go with The Undertaker on this one. Okay. I think WrestleMania, I think of that streak, and anybody from my generation is probably going to think the same. I still don't think it should have ended like it did.
Nobody does.
Yeah.
Well, technically it didn't. So. Awesome. Well, that was a great answer, by the way. But where can everybody see you over the next couple weeks, months, and then where can everybody follow you on social?
I am so glad you asked. I am at Sky High Guy, Sky being STHY, right here on Instagram. I believe I unified my social media handles. I think I'm also that on X. You can catch me every month on Battleground Pro Wrestling. You search that on YouTube. I think we're the only one that will come up. I am also working constantly at Primo's Pro Wrestling here in Denver, Colorado, which is also where I train. Colorado Wrestling Connection, which is out here in Colorado Springs, up and coming promotion here. Those are my three main ones. So if you want to see me there, and there is a possibility, remote possibility, I might be in Philly for WrestleMania week. And if I can actually do something with the factory, that is my dream. I got to tell Danny Cage that myself, and he said, let me know when you're in the area. So, knock on wood. Hopefully getting to do something there. But if you're in if you're in the Philly area and you happen to need a ring announcer, commentator, or just somebody to help out backstage, hit up your boy.
Do it.
Love it. Yeah, seriously. I mean, Maine is shaping up to be one for the ages, and I mean, it sucks that we're not going to be there that weekend. But loving all the opportunities that people are getting, and loving seeing people put themselves out there to try to find something for themselves.
That's the only way that you're going to get anywhere.
Yeah, closed mouths don't get fed.
Nope.
And Eric doesn't shut up.
This man gets paid to talk. You can't shut up when you get paid to talk.
I love you, Eric.
Yeah, you're okay. Schylar, thank you so much for joining us today, man. It's absolutely a pleasure, and hopefully we can have you back and have Nick on at the same time. Let's.
You guys sure you're ready for that?
Dream team.
I mean, it can't. I mean, you know what? It's got to be as entertaining as we are together. So let's.
I
mix it up,
need
see what
to
happens.
Get one of those dash cams and just turn it around the next time that Nick and I are driving to an event. It could be a podcast in of itself. Podcast,
Love
sitcom. You want to talk about getting canceled? I think we'd have a lot to learn. It's in your ball cap there.
That's fair.
Well, we certainly can't wait to see what you do next. Schylar, thank you again for joining us. For Schylar Ashwood, for the podcast Dad, I'm Mr. Cincinnati. This has been a special episode of the Wrestling Junkies podcast, and we'll talk to you guys soon.